Hi, Daryl the Clerk from East Hill Community Church in beautiful Vernon, BC. This week, 2 moments of justice made big news. The first you may only have heard of if you follow European sports. The Premier Soccer League had a revolt almost by 10 teams. Big name clubs like Liverpool and Tottenham and Arsenal were planning to pull out of the Premier League and start their own so-called Super League. But the fans revolted. Sparing the details, the billionaire owners were gunning for a softer ride to make more money off their fans, really. But the public outcry was deafening and the owners backed down, and so you could say it was a kind of street justice that won the day. Speaking of justice, in the U.S., much more than a sport was at stake in the conviction of Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer convicted of killing George Floyd last May. Obviously, Floyd should not have been trying to use counterfeit money, and relapsing on drugs didn't help his health. But either way, the officer used excessive force in clear violation of his training, and perhaps also because he knew Floyd from working security together in the past, maybe had something between them. But after kneeling on Floyd's neck for almost 10 minutes, that poor man died with a heartbreaking cry for his mom. And so this week the jury convicted Chauvin on 3 counts of murder and manslaughter. Now, whether you follow sports or U.S. news, there is definitely satisfaction in justice. No wonder, it's part of how we're made in God's image. Psalm 82 says, God presides over the great assembly, saying, defend the cause of the weak and fatherless, maintain the rights of the poor and oppressed, rescue the weak and the needy. And so here's the gospel in the Chauvin conviction that I hope and pray he'll see one day too, if he hasn't already. Romans 5 verse 8, God demonstrates his love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. I hate to say it, but you and I have done the equivalent of putting our knee on the necks of vulnerable people. Have you ever talked behind somebody's back? Or shared that embarrassing story of them that you'd never tell if they were right there too? Like a knee on the neck. It's appalling what indifference to someone can lead us to do to their reputation. It's terrible what hatred can make us say about someone or whole groups of people for that matter. It's scary what revenge will drive us to do. So often the hurting become those who in turn hurt others. It's shocking how little we care, for instance, about the effects of colonialism on the First Nations of Canada. So when I hear Chauvin's conviction, I see myself in the defendant's chair. But in the heavenly court that Psalm 82 envisions, I see God's justice thrown down on Jesus for me. And I see God's grace given to a humbled man, weak as I am, and in need of mercy as I've ever been. Justice served is the satisfying news of this week. It's the break that we've all been waiting for. But the good news is heavenly justice served alongside grace undeserved. And that, as you may know, brightens up life in unbelievable ways, doesn't it? And it leads to living quite differently. Now I can use excessive love, and there's plenty of training for that in the Bible. Now I can push back when I see knees on necks in my life or across our country or around the world for that matter. I can fight for the justice that we long for, and others do too. Now when I see indifference creeping up in my own heart, I can pray for the heart of God and his compassion and justice and mercy. I can use words that build up and encourage and bite my tongue when I need to. I'm thankful to see and hear some of these qualities in you. Yeah, the mainstream reporting this week puts us all in the judge and jury seat, doesn't it? But how does seeing yourself in the defendant's chair change the way you'll live this week? See you next time.